Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. You know, I have some issues that I'm going to talk about today about Elizabeth Warren and some changes of heart that I think I'm having. I think I have to do some changes with the way we express things, not in values, but in the way we express certain issues. So we are going to have a great show for you today. What is the title of the show today? The title of the show today is, and let me go ahead and bring that up now. The title of the show is, vamos a ver, Elizabeth Warren may be the antidote to Democratic Socialism scare for some Americans. Again, Elizabeth Warren just may be the antidote that we need for the Democratic Socialism scare that the Trump administration, that Republicans and all these other folks are trying to effect on us. And with the blog of the week, you're going to see exactly what I mean. Because I tell you, folks, we have a lot of work to do. And in the process of doing all this work that we have, the one thing that we do not need, the one thing we must avoid is any distraction that takes our eyes off of the ball. So we are not going to allow that to happen. We are not going to allow our eyes off of the ball at all. We're going to do what we know we have to do to get the job done. So anyhow, how you guys doing today? Please remember, this is a call-in show. The telephone number, of course, is 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. I sure hope that you guys remember to give us a call in, because it's imperative that we kind of get down to what I'm talking about right now. It's going to be a good show. Anyhow, title of the show again, Elizabeth Warren may be the antidote to Democratic Socialism scare for some Americans. And subtitle, I wrote a piece that will be on Daily Kos on Sunday that may subliminally illustrate that the Elizabeth Warren policy for that may be the antidote to the Democratic Socialism scare. And you know, that's what Elizabeth Warren has, an antidote for absolutely everything that ails us. And, you know, some people think she's a technocrat. Some people think that, well, you know, she just spends all this time on technicalities, and people don't want that. They want personalities, etc., etc. Well, you know what personalities have gotten us thus far. So far, personalities have gotten us the likes of Trump, the likes of folks that really are very little value, that do quite very little for us. It's going to be good having a technocrat in the House for a change. Anyhow, folks, again, before I get into the program, and just to make sure that we get more folks in, I want to remind you again, this is a call-in show. The telephone number to call in is 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Today, there's an interesting thing that came out today. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders, they decided to get together and come out with a bill, or a bill that they want to get passed. We'll get into the program in a minute, but I want to mention this because this just shows you the pilfering that occurs. The bill that they want to support is to stop the banks from ripping you off as usual. What they want to do is they want to ensure that banks can make no more than 15% interest on credit card bills. And here's the other thing, folks. Here's the other thing. it's not only on the credit cards that they're doing this. They also want it on same-day loans, payday loans, or whatever it is that they call them, because of the pilfer that continues to happen with these guys. You kind of have to wonder, how can these people go to sleep at night knowing that the people that need the money the most, the people that are most affected, you're willing to put them in the pain of having a 15% interest rate payment. There's another thing that I want to mention before I get into the directive of the show, is something that I mentioned in the blog itself, and it has to do with Uber. Uber is this is how scary, or I shouldn't say scary. This is how silly. This is how preposterous our form of capitalism is, my friends. Listen to this. Uber has never made a penny. Uber, I think, is losing over $2 billion. Uber is setting up an IPO that will probably net them $90 billion if successful. $90 billion if successful for a company that hasn't proved it can actually pull a profit. Worse, you have to ask yourself, how can a company that's dependent on a software application, maybe insurance and other type of issues, be $2 billion in the hole? Well, I can tell you how. How comes the corporate leader of Uber is making $45 million? How come their executives are amassing $145 billion every year when your company is losing money? How can that one CEO make $45 million a year on a corporation that is losing money? And you ask us why the disparity in income, and I am always telling people, we as the workers have to go out there and demand that they get what's theirs, because these guys are not doing any work, and they're making $45 million. The drivers are scraping to make a few bucks after paying their gas, insurance, and all these other issues, but they are not the ones. They are just commodities. They are just objects in the whole design, right? In Uber, Lyft, all these guys are just objects. When I try to explain to folks the disease that is our economic system, and to tell folks that they are the new form of slavery, some people get upset at me for saying I'm demeaning the people who were slaves back in the 1800s by calling the new American worker the new slavery. I'm sorry, I'm not taking that back. Yes, there are no whips and there are no other things, but the mind's enslaved when this is a type of work that we have to do, and somehow say we are going to build a company off of Uber, or build our company off of Lyft, or build our company in this gig economy. Look, who knows? I may, you guys may eventually not give me enough subscriptions to spend all my time here, and I may have to be, instead of working 18 hours a day, I may have to work 22 hours a day, sleep a couple hours, and do some Uber. No, I'm kidding. But anyhow, because I know you guys are going to support the program. But here's the deal. How is it possible? How is it possible for you not to think there is something wrong with an economy where you are just treated like a point of labor, while somebody else makes $45 million a year, and you're scraping, and you're the one that provides the funding. You're the one that allows the wherewithal for him to make that kind of money. Anyhow, last night I had a learning epiphany. I was writing my Daily Kos article for Sunday's front page. The original article's theme was whether to use the Democratic Socialism term at all during this election cycle. As I wrote, Elizabeth Warren kept on popping into my mind. Why? When asked if she was a capitalist, she didn't hedge. Yes, of course, Warren said quickly, but immediately went on to describe policies that she wanted instituted to make things better for Americans. When one examines Warren's policies, they are very revealing. There is much to learn from methodical discipline. And that is what I'm starting to find with Elizabeth Warren. That is what I'm starting to note that I think people should notice. I think something else that Elizabeth Warren is teaching a whole lot of progressives is you do not have to get bogged down into labels and ideologies. Tell the people what you're going to do for them. And it's paying a price in the polls for her. Her polls are going up. And she is the one of all the candidates out there. She is the one with the most specific policy ideas that are very much thought out. It is time in America that, we complain about government. We have the Republicans complain about government because, they don't like government, so why would they be good at it? And we have Democrats hypocritically a lot of times complain about government because, again, many times they don't want to do what is best for the middle class, for the poor, etc., etc., etc. So, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and read the blog of the week. The blog of the week is an important piece. So I hope that you listen to it. I hope that you share it. I hope that you share the program right now to ensure that we can get maximal vision in live during the process, but later on as well, that more shares, again, more people see the program over and over again. So folks, as you know what I do you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay, the weekly blog post. A blog post, and it's going to be up at Daily Kos on Sunday. It's so far quarantined at my website until a few days after it posts at the website at Daily Kos. So they have first dibs at it. But because you are a Politics Done Right listener, we can kind of skim through the article. But most importantly, if you are a subscriber to Politics Done Right, anything that I write immediately in real time, all my books, everything, you have it immediately in real time on Politics Done Right. So before I start reading, let me do a quick ask here. Folks, please remember this is a call-in show. And likewise, please remember that we need your support. So please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Again, that is patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Please support the program. You can also go to politicsdoneright.com and subscribe or contribute. politicsdoneright.com. But I would love to have 100 subscribers in the next few days. Get to 100 in the next few days, because folks, we really need to get there, and I can only get there with your support. We are doing important work that's not being done by the mainstream media. We are talking the progressive message, not filtered by the advertisers that we have. And we go out there and do the work. We go to the conferences. We go everywhere to make sure that you are informed. We interview politicians. We interview heads of states. We interview all kinds of folks, and we bring it to you over time. So please, again, you get to read all our books. And by the way, you get to read the book. I lost a whole lot of weight over the last few years, and I'm keeping it off. And I tell you my little secret on how to do it. And you get that by going and saying, lose weight and be fit now. Say no to snake oil. All of that you get at our website. Please go ahead and subscribe to the website. Subscribe to the program. Okay, we are going to get directly into the program now. As soon as I get onto the right screen. And please remember, this is a call-in show. Call in at 646-716-5812. 646-716-5812. Okay. The title of the blog of the week is this: To democratic socialism or not to democratic socialism is the question. I hope you understand what I was doing. I was kind of doing some trickery. To be or not to be. To democratic socialism or not to democratic socialism is the question. And the article goes this way. Many rebelled when Republicans made a liberal a pejorative word. In other words, the Republicans if you said liberal, they wanted, as soon as you said liberal, they wanted, oh my God, I can't be a liberal. They made it a dirty word. How dare they force us to deny who we are? That is what they attempted to do. The democratic socialism moniker best defined the policies many progressives support. As such, they had no problem supporting the Democratic Socialists of America, but DSA that is, but maybe for this election cycle, we need to be a bit more strategic. Americans have been programmed to believe that capitalism is the best economic system. They even find it somehow correlates with democracy. Many Americans sit down there and they say, oh, capitalism, democracy, capitalism, democracy. Hey, that's not true. They even find that it somehow correlates with democracy. No, it does not. Neither of those facts are true. In fact, by design and definition, capitalism is inhumane. China is both a communist country, but it is also a capitalist country. Remember that. This is very important for you to know. So whenever people start, if you go ahead and make a complaint on capitalism and people say, oh my God, you're just some communist. Say, well, if I really love capitalism, maybe that's what you are, because China is a capitalist country. Capitalism is defined as the invisible hand of the market, the efficient allocation of scarce resources. The thing is, efficiency is not always humane. Hear what I'm saying? A lot of people think that, okay, if I can do things better, if I can do things faster, that somehow that is how I should do it. No. Sometimes you want to be inefficient because you are being humane. The thing is, efficiency is not always humane, but in a system where the fiduciary responsibility of those running the basic unit of the capitalist economic model, the corporation, is the shareholder, the effects on humanity are far-reaching and immediately evident by today's reality. Caller, I will be coming to you next after the blog of the week. There is absolutely nothing democratic about capitalism, nor does it need to exist within a democracy, because as unions are disenfranchised, there is a master-servant relationship between employee and corporation, meaning executives and managers. The fact that the class who owns the most capital can get wealthier at a faster clip than those who work in a classic example of not only its inhumanity, but its immorality. Think about that. Let me kind of explain that, because a lot of people don't get that. If our economic system is growing at, let's say, 2% per year, but the wealthy, their personal economies, if those are growing then at 7%, at 10% per year, there is only one place. Remember, the economy is a closed loop. It's expanding, but it's closed. It's one closed loop. If their growth is larger than your growth, guess where that extra growth is coming from? Your pocket. There isn't two ways about it. And you know what? I don't have to ask that question if I am telling you the truth anymore, because the reality is income inequality is a direct result. Income and wealth inequality is a direct result of what is occurring. We preached that would occur over the years as trickle-down economics became vogue, as we started giving all these tax cuts and all these things became vogue. We knew this was going to happen, and it happened, and we have the numbers now to prove it. So don't allow folks to hoodwink you. The folks who invest capital in building a skyscraper is entitled to return in perpetuity for that investment while they pay work capital once. In other words, if you build a building and you pay somebody to build that building, you pay them once. But you can continuously make income on that building. You are continuously making income on that building. So the worker gets paid once, the servant gets paid once, and you use that asset that you invested in, your capital, your financial capital, and they can make money on that over and over and over again. What's immoral about that is that you invested capital as well. Your work. Your work is capital. Okay? Both investor and the worker use the form of capital. Capitalism gives the work capital, read human capital, less value. In other words, it's inhumane, because we're saying the capital put in by somebody who has some asset is better than the capital you put in to build something. But you're worthy as well. You are important as well. You could not have had that building without you. So here's the deal. We could not have had that building without you, and the owner of that building, the person who invested the capital, could not have had that building without their capital either. So both are needed, but only one continues to benefit ad infinitum from having built that building with their capital. Your human capital, no value other than one-time payment. His capital is refreshed, is refurbished. That is capitalism. And we have been taught to believe that that is okay. We have been programmed, indoctrinated into saying it is okay that our human capital is worth less than the person who has physical capital, irrespective of where that capital came from. Think about how many people got wealthy from ripping off the natives' lands, then getting capital and using that capital to build skyscrapers that you build and get paid once. We have to look at things in an honest manner where we do not allow folks to imply or put in our heads fallacies of how things really are. Again, I repeat, both the investor and the worker use a form of capital. Capitalism gives the work capital, read human capital, less value. But that is not all. Here we go. The appreciation of capital, a form of income known as capital gains, is taxed at a lower marginal rate than the person who works. So if you work for your income, but somebody sells his stocks and the appreciation on that income, he doesn't pay the same tax rate that you do, even though he didn't have to do physical work or really work for that appreciation. He just had to sit there and stay at his pool and hope that the stock market went up. And yet that income that he received passively, he pays less taxes on that income than you do. Why? Because again, capitalism is neither moral, nor it is fair, nor it is humane. While some would say that the taxing laws are not part of the capitalist economic model, that is hogwash, because the practical operation of the system in the aggregate is what matters, including corrosive nature of the wealthy bribing politicians to get their way. So even though people say, oh, well, you know, if that is really a function of the government. And I'm like, yeah, but the function of the government include the capitalists having more money than anybody else to bribe the politician. So that is a part of the model as well. This one story, the insulin story, is a perfect example of the corrosive and irreversible nature of capitalism through those who control price and power. It's the type of behavior that governs our economic system. And I wrote, ultimately, those with unregulated and unlimited price and power on products and services you must have can ensure one can never accumulate wealth. They own you. They can extort from you. The above reality defines our economy, and the proof is a continual decline in the wealth of the masses as the few get a more significant percentage. Unchanged math prevails. Welcome to indentured servitude. Now, until progressives find the narrative to deprogram those who think our system is democratic or divine, or as opposed to human made to enrich the few, change won't happen. We have to engage. We have to get the narrative right. That is what Politics Done Right is attempting to do. Get the narrative, inform the folks, tell them the way things are, not the way they're going to get on TV. Oh, capitalism took a whole lot of people out of poverty. Yeah, at what price? At what price? A lot of people came out of poverty. That's an absolutely true statement. At what price? And then there is democratic socialism. The word too many fear. I wrote in an article, want the GOP to stop using the word socialist to scare off Democrats. Make capitalism a bad word. A few months ago I wrote that. And I said the following. I believe in having an economic system that works for everyone. It must be democratic. The best one is a hybrid featuring free enterprise and a robust safety net, a system unable to hoard capital, which is a detriment to the economy as a whole. Everyone should have the ability to create their own company if they so desire, using their intellect and labor to get compensation commensurate with their work and efforts. Many who read some of my anti-corporate, anti-capitalist rants likely believe that I am a blowhard who wants a socialist state where the takers abuse the makers. That is not so. That is definitely not so. Remember, I'm a former software developer, business owner. My software is in products that you probably use right now. I made quite a few bucks in the olden days, several years ago, before I went full-time activism, and I did my part. I paid my ton of taxes happily, very much so. So this isn't some blowhard trying to say, oh, we want to take away from that wealthy person. That's not what this is all about at all. Not at all. That is not so. What is clear is that the food stamp con artists share much in common with most of the unfettered capitalists. They are takers by design. They both profit from the labor and intellect of others, e.g., taxpayers, employees. Don't forget that. They are no different. The master capitalist is no different than the food stamp thug. Remember that. Disagreeing with the snippet above is hard, and in fact, it is entirely in line with the tenets of the democratic socialism as laid out by the DSA, and this is what they say. Democratic socialists do not want to create an all-powerful government bureaucracy, but we do not want big corporate bureaucracies to control our society either. Rather, we believe that social and economic decisions should be made by those whom they most affect. Today, corporate executives who answer only to themselves and a few wealthy stockholders make basic economic decisions affecting millions of people. Resources are used to make money for capitalists rather than to meet human needs. We believe that the worker and consumers who are affected by economic institutions should own and control them. Social ownership could take many forms, such as worker-owned cooperatives or publicly owned enterprises managed by workers and consumer representatives. Democratic socialism favor as much decentralization as possible, not the centralization that we get in capitalism, where only Exxon and Shell controls the most of the market in oil, etc., etc. While the large concentrations of capital in industries such as energy and steel may necessitate some form of state ownership, many consumer goods industries might be best run as cooperatives. Read honest corporations owned by the employees. Democratic socialists have long rejected the belief that the whole economy should be centrally planned. Not at all. That's communism. We don't believe in that sort of thing. While we believe that democratic planning can shape major social investments like mass transit, housing, and energy, market mechanisms are needed to determine the demand for many consumer goods. So we believe in supply and demand. All these things that capitalists claim they believe in, but that they really don't. What they believe in, monopoly and the constant extraction from from the many to a few. That's the difference. If anyone believes this is pie in the sky, consider the Mondragon Corporation, a Spain cooperative. In 2015, it employed north of 74,000 people. Check it out. I have the link to it in the article. These are two economic cases laid out very superficially, but very understandably. Polls tell us that the policies that would effectively democratize the economy is what Americans want. After the indoctrination and the vilification of certain words for generations, Americans won't just make a change on faith. After all, in their minds, they have no examples of democratic socialism working anywhere. The plutocrats and many in our government, Democrats and Republicans alike, go out of their way to defend the pilfering status quo by equating this economic model with all the place where some false variant failed while hiding in plain sight where some versions are working. In other words, they want you to look at Venezuela. They don't want you to look at Norway. They want you to look at North Korea. They don't want you to look at Sweden. You take a look at how these things operate. Same thing they do with Medicare for all. What I told people a couple of days on the show, or either yesterday or the day before, don't believe anything these people tell you. You'll find out on your own. You and some friends get 100 random numbers from places like Canada, the UK, and Skype a telephone number and say, hey, what do you think about your healthcare? And by the way, do you know anything about the American healthcare system? You will be surprised. They laugh at us. Other countries, other industrialized countries laugh at Americans. How can you guys stand for that? How can you guys believe those lies? We thought you guys were a first world country who had intellect, who had intelligence that would understand that if every other country in the world are doing things like what we are doing, you probably should take a look at it because it's working. We are healthier, we are slimmer, we are in better shape, we live longer. And you believe all the things your people are telling you, your politicians are telling you, not your politicians, because your politicians are just the mouthpieces of the plutocracy. You believe what they're saying. You're not believing what your eyes are telling you. When you see income inequality continues to grow, you don't believe what you're hearing. You don't believe what you're seeing. You don't believe what you're feeling. Elizabeth Warren upset many when she stated she was a capitalist, but with a whole lot of controls. One should gain a much better appreciation for what she is doing. And it starts with the Accountable Capitalism Act. And that is the magic of Elizabeth Warren. And at first, I didn't realize it. When that word came out, the Accountable Capitalism Act, I balked. I was pissed because she put the word capitalism in there and accountability. And then I understood what she was doing. Her accountable capitalism has 5 major tenets. Requires very large American corporations to obtain a federal charter as a United States corporation, which obligates company directors to consider the interests of all corporate stakeholders. Empowers workers at United States corporations to elect at least 40% of board members as in other words, the workers has to make up at least 40% of the board. Restricts the sales of the company shares by the directors and officers of United States corporations, prohibits United States corporations from making any political expenditures without the approval of 75% of its directors and shareholders. What that makes sure is that there's no bias to some crazy methodology. Permits the federal government to revoke the charter of a United States corporation if the company has engaged in repeated and egregious illegal conduct. Remember, I want to remind you guys of something. Remember the Bush's Clear Skies Initiative? The name made one believe it would be an environmental panacea. Clear skies, smogless skies, beautiful blue skies. It was the narrative that most people absorbed. But the sky was neither clearer. It actually allowed you to dump more crap in the air. To democratic socialism or to not democratic socialism is the question. And Elizabeth Warren knows how best to answer it. Going forward, until we invest enough in re-education and the eradication of fallacies, we should make the policies speak. We don't have to let the labels speak. Let the policies speak, if you get my drift. If you get my drift. I leave the rest up to you. Okay, I'm coming to the call. Let's see, that is 973. Come on in, 973. You're on, 973. Hey, talk to me.
How are you today?
I'm fine. Who do I have the honor of speaking with?
This is Johnny.
Hey, Johnny, talk to me, my brother.
Johnny.
Talk to me.
How are you today?
I am doing
first,
great,
I'd like
sir.
to say excellent conversation.
Thank you.
Excellent conversation. Just wanted to add a couple things to it. One, I believe that one of the issues as far as from let's say from 10,000 feet is this issue of whether or not is capitalism compatible with democracy. And I think we've reached that point in our history where it looks like they're no longer compatible.
It's completely
and
incompatible.
So I applaud Senator Warren for trying to put regulations in place to kind of reel in capitalism, this quote-unquote unfettered capitalism.
Right.
Because, again, it was one thing when the goal was to maximize profit, but now the goal is to eliminate competition.
Right.
And so basically what's happening is that capitalism is actually morphing into the same problem that you have in communism, which is just a few companies running everything.
Right.
And that type of homogeny is a precursor to extinction. So, I got to keep saying that because I think I have to remind our people out there that this homogeny precursor setup will be followed by an extinction event.
Yes.
And so that's very troubling for me. And so we all have a vested interest into kind of, having real regulations in place to rein in some of this unfettered capitalism. Now, the other thing I would just say to Senator Warren, one of the issues, I love a lot of her ideas, but the one idea that she has that I think is a little overdone is how she wants to handle college loans.
Okay.
And I would just say to her,
talk to me about that.
Don't do anything complex. Well, let me just say this. She just needs to do one thing. Back in the day, if you went bankrupt, you could discharge your student loans through bankruptcy.
Right.
That's all she has to do is put that rule back into place. She doesn't have to necessarily provide anybody with anything. Because at the end of the day, I'm not saying that school is going to be cheap, but the way school is going toward now, I don't know. But I just feel like just fix that rule, and if a person, falls upon hard times and they need to use the tool of bankruptcy to discharge their loans, so be it. Let them do it.
Let me.
Why prevent them from doing it?
Let me do. First of all, I agree wholeheartedly with you that we need to get rid of that loophole because, as it turns out, corporations can discharge all of their. They can discharge everything. They can do a Chapter 7, Chapter 13, Chapter 11. They can do all of that.
Exactly.
With all of their. We can't with student loans. That is one of the specific types of loans that cannot be discarded. And I think there are certain credit card restrictions as well based on income. There's a whole lot of restrictions for the consumer. Very little restrictions for the business, the corporation that is. Now, let me do. Go ahead.
And then I would just like to point out my issues with the Russians.
Mm-hmm.
I have basically two issues with the Russians. One of the things the Russians have been able to do is overinflate the housing market. They've come in here into the high rent areas.
Johnny, let me stop you a second because that's a little segue. So let me answer the student loan thing, and then let's do the Russian thing after that.
Yes.
The student loan. Let me tell you what my beliefs are. I understand what you're saying, and what you're saying is correct, and that is go ahead and remove that restriction that you can't discharge your student loan in bankruptcy. But here's the other thing that you can do. That the reason why I want student loans paid off, right? It was a mistake. What I'm saying is that so many people to get a higher education at a public school had to invest so much of their own money means that there is a lead weight on those people who did that going forward. And for those who think, but for those who think that somehow they will get recovered by the jobs that they get. We've found out now that most of the jobs that they get still keeps them at hard times paying these bills. They don't reach the stage where they have to go bankrupt, but it prevents their future growth in life. Now, here's the deal.
And it hurts our economy.
And it hurts our economy because otherwise these people would buy homes and cars and washing machines and all of that.
Exactly.
But here's the kicker. We're doing it once again on the corporations here's the reason why student loans are so high. Because all the different state governments started to give corporations, remember, ALEC write laws for all these states. And these states are, in as much as they're 50 states, a lot of times you find the same laws in all the states written by ALEC. So all the states have similar laws, okay? Now, and that is a American American Legislative something Council. But anyhow, all these states have the same laws. And what have they been doing progressively since the 1980s, since Reagan, is continuously starving public education. And as they've starved public education, people had to take out bigger loans, etc. But here's the kicker. We are subsidizing companies. Companies need the skill. And instead of them paying the taxes, so there's a public educational system to create people with the skills, they're saying, no, you go ahead and subsidize us. Come to us with the skills that we need. So our investment is
Exactly.
zilch. So that's the reason why I want the payback. And I don't only want the payback, I want the payback coming from corporations. I want the payback coming from higher taxes on the wealthy, because they are the ones responsible for all these kids having had to go ahead and get those big loans. And here's the second part. There are all these phony schools, including the kind of school that Donald Trump had, that was nothing more than a school designed to give false hope to students that they would do well by going to these private commercial schools, and that qualified for these high-price student loans. They should have to pay it as well. So what I'm saying
now,
is...
Egberto, I'm going to say something radical. I'm going to add something radical to what you're saying, so
Please
you got to
do.
hold on to your hat here.
Yes, I'm holding my head.
As a
I'm
black man...
I'm holding my head.
As a black man,
Yeah.
I actually think that we have too many historically black colleges.
Why is that
I'd
going
like to see us reduce it to 3.
Okay. Howard, which is the other
3.
one?
Howard, Hampton, and Morehouse,
Okay.
and Spelman.
Okay, got it. And,
Or 4, whatever. Like
and those
that.
are historical. Those have some historical meanings. I imagine the reason you selected those 4.
Well, the reason why I said that is because when I look at the Mormons and what they've been able to do at BYU, or I look at my Jewish brothers and sisters over at Brandeis, and I say to myself, that's a better model.
Right.
Less schools and give more scholarship money.
You know what? I am with you there
Because
now.
at the end of the day, I feel like that's something that's big too, because we were sold the lie of going to a HCBU,
Right.
and unfortunately you have that Dred Scott moment where it's like a black man can have nothing that a white man is bound to
Right.
actually respect.
Right.
So you can go to a HCBU, but in the end, they're probably, I'm not saying they're not going to hire you, but it's tough. It's tough. I went to Ivy League school. I went to Ivy League school for undergrad, and that was one of my parents, that was one of their things. They pushed me like, oh, yes, you got to go Ivy.
Let me tell you, I understand.
And I felt like it would have been more comfortable for me as a person to go to a HCBU.
I understand exactly what you're saying, and I'm not going to disagree with that at all. I think I think there's some merit to having a few of those schools, not some of them that have become sort of profit centers themselves for some people,
Right.
the elite, what I call the elite black intelligentsia. We all, just like
Yes.
we have in a lot of different, we have that as well. So I'm with you. And look, when I was going to school, I had the choice of going to UT or going to Prairie View or going to SMU, or I'm not
Right.
SMU. And the reason I chose UT is that's where I'm going. The reason my daughter also had to go to a UT or UT-like school is I wanted her completely and entirely acclimated all of the time to what society looks like, period.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
Now, there are
Exactly.
reasons. Right now,
Yep.
she's doing her medical school at, she got into several medical schools. She's doing hers currently at Howard. But now,
Congratulations, by the way.
Right, thank you. The reason she's doing it there now is the opposite, right? Because if you want to go in there and you say you want to, my daughter is an altruistic person as well, and she wants to serve the community. She wants to go into underprivileged areas. That is a place where she, the school, the hospitals that she works with, and the people that she intends to see. That's one of the better places for her to do that. So, she chose that
Yeah,
school
but
over.
Egberto, my only problem, I love Howard, but the problem that I have with Howard is, it's funny, I've actually worked with quite a number of Howard physicians. Most of them are white,
A lot
which
of
is
them
really
are, yeah.
surprising.
It's
You'd be
amazing,
surprised at the
isn't it?
number of white kids that are actually at Howard.
Yeah, I know. My
You would
daughter
be
tells
surprised.
me. Yeah, my daughter tells me it's a damn good school. It's a damn good medical school,
Exactly.
and you get a lot of
it's
practice.
Funny. It's funny how that all works.
Yeah, you get
And
a
then
lot of.
the other thing, I just want to say 2 more things before I let you go, because I don't want to take up all your time.
Sure, go ahead.
But the other 2 things I would just want to say is that this issue with the Russians inflating the housing market is also going to be a problem later on down the road, because they've paid exorbitant amounts of money to inflate the housing markets in all the premium areas. And so now the real estate prices have gotten so out of control. I mean, and Donald Trump has been a part of that, by the way.
Right.
It's gotten so out of control, there's going to be some type of correction. And I worry about what's going to happen to our society when that correction occurs. And then finally, I actually heard this somewhere else, but someone said that they believe that Donald Trump got these loans from Deutsche Bank. And Deutsche Bank, the reason why Deutsche Bank released those loans, because he owed them like $400 million on one loan,
Right.
and then didn't pay him back. And then they gave him another loan for like $1 billion.
Right.
And supposedly what happened was the Russians bought those loans from Deutsche Bank on the secondary market.
Right. Right.
So that basically, they just, and I mean, when you have it working like that.
Let me tell you something.
Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna ask you something. Look at the fear in the Republicans' eyes. I'm talking about somebody like Senator Lindsey Graham. These guys are so scared right now. None of them dare turn their backs on Trump. There is something going on. There's something going on there. I continuously ask myself, how does a Bob Barr, how does a Lindsey Graham, how do all these people that we know, yes, they're conservatives, yes, some of them are even right-wing, but they would never tolerate the kinds of things that Trump is doing. They would never do it, not even for their own. There is a lot. Trump has...
Right, because something's going on.
What I think is the same way let me tell you what I honestly think. And folks, this here, I always talk facts to my listeners, but this here is a speculation that I do want them to consider and start find out, see if somehow I have something here. But this is speculation only, folks. But I think the Russians, just like they broke into the DNC, I think they broke into key senators. They broke into a whole lot of stuff. I think they had spies on a lot of these senators, etc. And I think they have a huge number on these guys. And I think what's going on right now is these guys are petrified what the Russians are going to do.
They're being blackmailed and bribed.
Exactly. You listen to Lindsey Graham today, and you listen to him a few years ago. Nobody changes like that. Nobody changes. You look at what he said when Trump was running. You look at the derogatory things he said when Trump was running. And now he is a lapdog for Trump. There is something happening. There is something happening with these guys. There's some blackmail. There may be threats on lives. There is something happening here because today, after let me tell you what even kind of codified that in my mind. Today, after there was what's his name, Kerr or something, the senator from I don't remember what state he's from. He decided to subpoena Donald Trump's son.
Oh, Junior.
Yeah,
oh,
right.
Yeah,
so Donald Trump
is
and it's in the Senate, so it's a Republican who did it. And if you see how Lindsey Graham, the fear he had when he said, "Well, we are going to have to see," and I mean, the fear that these guys have, there must be something they have on them, Johnny. I'm telling you. But
and I think we're in a very interesting situation, and I don't know how we're going to be able to necessarily twist out of this. But I agree, there's something bigger going on.
There is. And
there's something bigger.
And we don't know. But here's a kicker. If they also have stuff on Democrats, right, what it means is Democrats are going to just allow Trump to continue in power and continue the national pilfer. So, I mean, again, this is all above our pay grades, and the only way we can get around this is volumes of people doing things one way, such that the exit polls are so way in one direction that we really can't take the elections away for the people that we really want. And to do that, we have to have the politics done right and all this, the hundreds of programs like this that are trying to do it.
Question. So this program,
yes.
Can we both at least say that I think Warren is doing the most as far as creating policies?
Yes.
And I think she's the one with the best ideas right now.
I have that written down at several blogs right now that she is the one, bar none, that is coming out with not only, she's coming out with stuff you can say, okay, she wants to do this, and this is how it's going to be done. In other words, she wants to she goes out and she says, we are going to tax wealth. We're going to have a wealth tax.
Yes.
And whenever somebody screams, what I am doing when she says things like that is I try to personalize it for people. In other words, a lot of people, even though they're not wealthy, they have a sticky feeling, they're going to tax wealth. That's not a good thing. Somehow that's a bad thing, because that's how they were indoctrinated to believe that. So what I do in my program, and I say, wait a minute, folks, let's stop for a while. We must tax wealth. First of all, $160 billion that Bezos has was made on your back, but that's not the only thing. That's not the only thing. Here's the other thing.
Monopoly. It's a monopoly.
But here's the other thing, though, Johnny. You own a car. you own a home. Every year, you pay a wealth tax on your home. Whether you own it or not.
Yep.
Whether you own it or
Yep,
not,
that's right.
you pay a wealth tax on your home.
That's
You
right.
pay a wealth tax on your card. These things are called property taxes. Well, stocks are also property. Why is it that type of property doesn't get taxed and all the other kind of properties get taxed? We have to put into people's
And
head
I'll leave
the
you
truth.
with
Go ahead, sir.
and I'll leave you with this one thought: the most patriotic thing an American can do is pay their taxes.
And, I paid it. Let me
That
tell
is
you,
the most patriotic thing.
when I had my software company, I made a lot of money. And I paid more in taxes than God knows what. and let me tell you, I never once, I'll be honest with you, I never once looked for a loophole. I came from Panama. For me, it was like,
I know what
wow,
you mean. I know what
this
you
is
mean.
great.
I do the same thing
There you go. Now,
because I'm proud to pay it.
there you go. Now I'm a full-time political activist. I've gone through retirements after doing this damn thing for 8 years and Facebook. But you know what? let me tell you this though. Let me tell you this. The rewarding part is knowing that you're making a difference. And knowing that
You are making a difference.
and
You
you're
better believe
creating
it.
a
You better
better
believe it. And I'm going to tell you
life
something
for
too
your kid.
before I let you go.
Yeah.
One of the issues that I had with the Obama presidency was how the right-wing radio was radicalizing people.
Exactly.
And I don't know how we fix that.
Well,
I don't know how we fix that, but that has to be addressed too.
Let me tell you something. I have all those right-wing radicals are my friends. I talk to them. I don't necessarily get to them on the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. The one thing I don't stop doing, Johnny, is talking. And the one thing I also do is I continue to respect them. I continue to because
But they're being radicalized
Yes,
in a
they
way
are.
that would, if it was happening here, and if we had Al Qaeda or ISIS here in America,
Right.
they would have a fit. They
Yeah,
would root it
no,
out.
you're right.
And I'm
You're
just saying, if they're going to do that, let me just say this too. If they're going to do that, why aren't they going after domestic
terrorism,
white terrorist
Yeah.
groups?
Listen, that's another subject
like
we'll
the Ku
tackle.
Klux Klan?
Johnny, I got another call, but we'll do that. We'll talk about that another time.
My bad.
My
Have a
brother,
good day. Take care.
no, bad. You please keep listening. Please keep calling. Please remember to share if you're on the internet, or I know you don't do the internet thing, but if you can, share. I hope you should
Thank
send
you.
me. Or do you get our emails?
No, I don't. But I'm listen. You got a friend, and I'm going to be around, so
Okay,
I'm going to
good.
keep listening. Believe it.
All right, my brother. You have a good one. Okay.
Take care, Johnny.
Take care now, Johnny.
Take care, brother.
Bye-bye. All right, I'm coming to 609, I think. Let me get to the mouse here and come on in. 609, you're hot.
Hey, Egberto, it's Paul.
Hey, Paul, talk to me, my brother.
You remember we spoke, I guess, last week?
Yeah, I remember you, Paul.
Yeah. I got a little bone to pick with you.
Please pick the bone with me because yeah, go ahead.
Well, here's the thing. You asked me if I like everything that Trump's done, and I said, yes, I pretty much do like everything that Trump's done.
Mm-hmm.
Then you brought up some situation that occurred in Appalachia
Yes.
with the water supply
Yes.
being contaminated
Yes,
because
sir.
Trump took away some regulation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all I want is some intellectual honesty from you.
Absolutely.
Okay? You said if we're looking at the same data, we should be able to come to the same conclusions.
Absolutely.
I went and I researched that whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
And what you failed to mention is that the regulation you're speaking of
Mm-hmm.
wasn't even in effect until Barack Obama's last day in office.
Okay.
So when Trump did away with that regulation,
Mm-hmm.
it had never been in effect even under Obama.
Okay.
So you made it sound like there was a great legislation or a great regulation that was protecting people's water,
Mm-hmm.
and people weren't getting sick. The water was not getting contaminated, and Trump came along and got rid of that regulation, and now the evil coal companies are spilling mercury and all kinds of poison in the water, and that was not true at all.
Can we talk about intellectual honesty now?
Yes.
Okay. Everything that I said, sir, Paul, was absolutely true. The law was the law came into effect. First of all, you know that Obama was not under control. The people who controlled Congress was Republicans, and they didn't allow the release of the law till, again, it was written and it's going to come into effect.
Well, see,
Well, let me finish.
Here's where you're.
You see,
wait.
I
Let me
never
just point out one thing real quick.
Didn't interrupt you.
Listen, I just wanted. Alberto, let me point out one thing really fast before you go on.
Sure.
It was a regulation under Obama's EPA. It had nothing to do with the legislature.
Okay, here's the deal.
Go ahead.
Here's the deal. Yes, it did. Everything that the EPA does, right, the Congress can come back and revert. But here's what I really wanted to say specifically, because I think you're talking about intellectual honesty, and that is a hit that I think it's important for me not to allow stand, because again, that's what I depend on for people to trust what's coming out of me. Everything that I said is really true. By going ahead and removing that rule, what you're doing is exactly what I said would happen. And if I looked at you and I said, the people in Ferguson, not Ferguson, what's a place in Michigan that's getting polluted water right now? If their water is polluted,
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, if their water is polluted, Flint. If the water is polluted in Flint right now, under, let's say it's my administration and you won the election and you're going to take over next. And at the last day of my administration, I go ahead and that law becomes effective, okay? Are you, because it was my law, or because you're going to tell Flint folks, no, I'm not going to stop the poisoning of your water? You wouldn't. And that is exactly what I'm talking about. When he passed that law, you're going to let me finish, Paul. Come on, man. I gave you all the time to talk, sir. And then, you'll get a rebuttal.
Listen,
absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
I want to have time to respond.
And you will have that. You will have that. If I have to go over by 2 minutes or so, that'll be fine, sir. Not a problem at all. Okay.
Great.
So what I'm saying, Paul, is everything that I said was true. I even gave you the article to look at, and the article was not a biased article. That by removing that law, we allow these contaminants into the ground. We made it legal for these contaminants, for these releases into the ground. That is what the rule did. So it doesn't matter anything above whether it came on Obama's last day or whatever. The rule was placed there, and when Trump came in, one of the first things he did was to get rid of it. And he got rid of that because of the coal interest, etc. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, what you just said is not exactly true.
Please tell me what's wrong.
I'll tell you. The regulation that I'm talking about was conceived of in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
It went through, for whatever reason, it never took effect. And the last day of Obama's administration, for strictly political reasons, he signed it into law. And the reason he signed it, or the regulation became effective, however that happens with the EPA, was for political reasons, and it was overburdensome on the coal companies. Before that regulation took effect, there were already rules in place where they weren't able to contaminate the water in Appalachia. This was an overburdensome regulation.
Okay, let me
to hurt. Wait, I'm not done.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
To hurt the coal industry. And here's a challenge I have for you.
Mm-hmm.
You said that now these coal companies were able to contaminate the water at will.
Yes.
I want you to find me one person in Appalachia who got sick because of contaminated groundwater caused by the coal industry.
Okay.
Just find me one.
Here's a problem.
Because there are regulations in effect now that prevents them from contaminating the groundwater.
All right.
This one signed in by Obama was way over the top.
Tell me what made it way over the top. In your honest opinion, what made it over the top?
I don't know. I don't know the exact specifics of the regulation.
But that's
All
what
I know
you're.
is
Let me stop a second.
EPA.
Sir, let me ask you, because I asked you a specific question and you said you don't know. Okay, and that's fine. It's okay not to know. And that is a problem that I have when we have these types of discussions. Let me tell you what the problem is. The problem is other levels of mercury can be in that you can get other levels of mercury into the groundwater now. Okay, and what I'm saying is these levels of mercury will you asked me to do something that I couldn't do. I couldn't tell you somebody that got, or I will not be able to tell you that somebody that got sick today, tomorrow, or the other day, because that's not the way mercury contamination or heavy metal contamination works. That's not the way it works at all. It's something that's accumulated over time. But what I can tell you is this, my friend, and I say this with respect as best as I can. When you are discussing something and you say that the reason somebody did something was political, even if that may be the case, you may be right that it may be political, but it also could be right. It can be political and the right thing to do. It could be political and the wrong thing to do. You know the permutations there I'm going through. All of those things can be true. So you and I could be saying the same thing, that okay, Obama did it for political reasons. I don't know what is in Obama's heart, and I don't exactly know. Honestly, I'll be telling you, I don't know why it wasn't placed into effect until the date that it was. But I'm saying it was. And I'm saying it was, whether political or not, it was a good thing. Now, for you to come and tell me now and say, but it was overburdensome, and I said, okay, please educate me why you think more of this is overburdensome, and you say, well, I don't know. That tells me then that, and tell me if I'm wrong, that you simply heard that these regulations were overburdensome.
Well, I didn't hear any of that. What I heard was the conclusion I came to when I did my research on it was the only reason because there was a regulation in effect since 1974 or something like that that said that the coal industry in Appalachia cannot contaminate the streams.
Right. Now
there was already a regulation.
Yeah, but
the only reason Obama.
Go ahead.
Let me finish this thought real quick.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Let me just finish this thought really quick.
Yeah.
The conclusion I came to, the reason I came to that conclusion is that Obama put it into effect. He signed it into effect the day he left. So he could say, so people like you could say, and people on the left could say, look at this evil Trump. He got rid of this great regulation that was preventing contaminations from going into this stream. When there was already a regulation in effect, he probably got rid of the regulation because it was doing double the work.
Okay,
it was already there.
You see
my point?
No, I see your point. And
I'd like to, let me just real quick, and then I'll let you have the floor.
Yeah, go ahead.
If the water is being contaminated now because Donald Trump removed that regulation, it was being contaminaminated under Obama for 8 years, and you didn't say a word about it.
I am not going to.
Now all of a sudden, Trump gets rid of a regulation that you.
Hey, you have a good point. You have a good point. You have a damn good point. In other words, if it was happening under Obama and Obama knew about it, and for political reasons Obama did nothing about it, which I don't know that that's the fact, but if that's the case, I am on your side for that. But then you need to be on my side for Trump doing what he did. And that's all I'm saying. I'm saying we need to reach a point, Paul, where, again, what I said, and what I said holds. In other words, you can do something for political reason that's right, and you can do something for political reasons that's wrong. And I think we, as on the opposite side of the spectrum, because I don't know if you saw a couple of shows ago where I talk about, I think I was at KPFT, I was on air then. I said that I'm not going to ever make you my enemy. You're a Trump supporter. You're a conservative, I imagine. Or, by the way, are you a conservative or just a Trump supporter?
I'm a libertarian. I don't like the Republicans, and I don't like the Democrats.
Right. But what I'm saying is,
I do like Trump.
Yeah, I got you. And I honestly think your love for Trump is misplaced, that I think you're going to find later on when you find out that the guy's really into it for himself and not for you. I am in it for you. As a libertarian as you are, I am in it for you. But I can tell you Trump he doesn't really care about you. But that's academic. I'm not going to get into a fuss about that. You have to figure that out on your own.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Right. Let me just ask you a quick question, and I'll let you go.
Yes.
You say that Trump is in it for his
Trump.
own personal gain.
Yes.
For Trump.
Yes.
To me, that doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
The guy was a billionaire. He had businesses. He had mistresses. You know what I'm saying? Which, if I were a billionaire, I might have mistresses too. I don't know. He was living a great lifestyle.
I'm gonna,
he didn't
I'm
have
gonna
anybody looking
I'm gonna
into his
blackmail you
finances.
with your wife, brother. I'm gonna blackmail you now.
Well, I'm not gonna let her hear this. But you see my point.
But
he had a lavish lifestyle. He was loved by everybody.
Okay, and let me stop you
He
there.
didn't need this.
Let me stop you right there.
He's lost money.
I know. Let me stop you
because
there.
of this.
I know
His
that.
family has suffered.
Sir, stop for a second. Stop for a second. That's the narrative. There is, I am so sad that I can't remember the guy who wrote the book on Trump and his real money. Trump is no billionaire. Okay, that's the first thing. He's not a billionaire. But you need to read the book by Kay Johnson. Please look this up for me. Look up Kay Johnson, something Kay Johnson. He wrote a book about Trump. So if you do a scan in Google for Trump and Kay Johnston, I think it's Kay Johnston or something like that, you would be able to find, you'll be able to read an objective thing that's backed up by data. In other words, we have this guy has all the old reports and things that's been filed publicly and whatever, and you'll find out that Trump was really never a true billionaire. He's really, because again, he's a real estate guy, and with real estate you can cover a whole lot of stuff. But the guy, but I don't want this to turn into a pro or against Trump thing, because you're a Trump supporter. What I ask you to do as a Trump supporter is please read some of these books. Don't just listen to what folks say. Oh, I was a billionaire and I took it way down. Don't believe that. Go ahead and read the book first.
Yeah.
And then after
Listen,
that,
and
then you come on my show again. And in fact, maybe one of these days, I got you as an actual guest on the show where you're in the window and all that good stuff. But anyhow, we have to.
I would love that.
Yeah, we have to close out the show, Paul.
I know, but
go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, let me make one more point really quick.
Yeah.
I have no problem going and looking at the data that you're talking about.
Thank you.
But when I looked at the data, the article you sent me, and you said, "Oh, this proves that and the other," it was all propaganda. And when I did the research,
please don't say.
You see what I mean?
No, but hold on a second. You can't leave.
Hey, Egberto,
the article is still in the folks. The article is still in the place that I left it, so people can see whether the article is propaganda or not. It's not a political organization that did that article.
Well, this is what I challenge your audience to do.
Yes.
Read the article like I did.
Sure.
And then look up the regulation that's mentioned, and do some research on it, when it went into effect, and what it did, and the regulation that was already there from 1974 that basically did the same thing that this new one did. A whole bunch of hay out of.
Paul, thank you for telling the audience that, because I want the audience to test everything that I tell them until, like I said, I expect that eventually people who listen to me every day will build up a trust in me. But I don't want anybody to take anything at face value that I'm saying. I want them to look it up. I'm not Fox News. I want you to look things up, and I can talk to you. We can sit down and have a conversation. I want you to look it up. So that's fine. So I appreciate that, Paul.
I love this.
Great. Paul, thank you.
This is good stuff, the back and forth. I love it.
Thank you, brother. You have a great day. Thank you for calling in. Hey, folks, this is a Trump supporter who calls into the show and listens to the show. We got quite a few of those, though, Paul. But thank you for calling. Thank you for listening.
Oh, I know you do.
We have a great one. You have a great one. All right, brother?
You too. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right. Take care, buddy. Bye-bye. All right, folks,
All right,
that was Paul, a Trump supporter, now a new friend of mine. We got to get out of here. We are like 7 minutes ahead. But anyhow, folks, before I go, I got to ask you to do a favor here. Please go to patreon.com/politics done right. As you see, we talk to everybody. We try to change minds. Our minds can be changed where it needs to be changed. Like I changed my mind on certain things based on Elizabeth Warren. But we need you. We need your support. So please go to patreon.com, join the family. Patreon.com/politics done right. Those who become subscribers will get all the books that I write free of charge online. So you get, as I see it, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. You also get my new book that's called Lose Weight and Be Fit Now. I had blood pressure from 240 over 140. I'm not kidding. 240 over 140. I was overweight by more than 50 pounds. I lost all 50 pounds. My blood pressure now is very normal. Last time I went was 100 over 70 something. Yes, I'm still on a small pressure pill. I'm scared to get off of it. The doctor told me I could have, but I'm scared to get off of it. So I just stay with it and keep the pressure low. I ask you to consider that book. You can, if you want the physical book or Kindle, you can always go to Amazon.com and buy the book. But if you go ahead and subscribe to patreon.com/politics done right, the book is yours to read online. All my books are there to read online. And of course, I'm behind, but I'm working on how to make America utopia, take away the economy from those who rigged it. And that book right now is online, the first 2 chapters. And as more chapters come along, we'll bring that out, folks. So please go ahead and subscribe. Patreon.com/politics done right. I got to get out of here. So my name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby? I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3.